Having a comic make any reference to the person reading it, i.e. you, is likely to earn most fans undying love. Or you could completely alienate them, that's probably a thing to bear in mind as well. Even the most temperamental of comic fans can agree that the occasional well-intentioned ribbing is always funny, because, after all, if there's one person who's allowed to call you a dork, it's definitely the person who wrote the comic you're reading. This meta-mocking isn't limited to comics like Deadpool or Ambush Bug either, as even more quote-unquote well-respected comics like Watchmen and Judge Dredd manage to slide in a sneaky couple of goofs on us readers every now and then. So, in the spirit of getting dunked on by the big two, that is definitely my idea of a good time. I'm Ewan, this is What Culture Comics, and here are 10 comics that mock the reader. Number 10. Animal Man. For the most part, Animal Man is not a series that mocks the reader at all, instead focusing on showing us the life and struggles of its protagonist Bernard Buddy Baker, and his rise to becoming a legitimate superhero. This is subverted in a single issue of the series, that of issue 26, Grant Morrison's last hurrah on the comic. And because of this, Grant decides to appear in person, speaking to Buddy and discussing his retirement from the series in detail. While this is all well and meta, the conversation is peppered with Morrison's references to the reader, and how he needs to keep them entertained with the moments of action and fight scenes. For almost any other creator, it could seem in bad taste, but for a writer as accomplished as Morrison was, and continues to be, it's clear that this is a mixture of some affectionate ribbing to his audience and a spot of self-deprecation at the way he constructs his own comics. Number 9. Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe is great in that it's simultaneously a badass train of brutal battles and murder, and also a pretty solid series of riffs on Marvel, its characters, and, most importantly, its creators and viewers. Because after tearing its way through most of the Marvel roster, Deadpool starts on cosmic entities, taking out Thanos, Galactus, and then even Man-Thing to open a portal that takes Deadpool to the real world, where he starts to go after his own comic creators, threatening that, after them, the reader is next. Combine this with the fact that Deadpool's breakdown is largely motivated by discovering that he exists in a comic universe that constantly repeats and rehashes itself without ever truly progressing, and the diss is clear. Deadpool thinks comics are dull as dishwater, and he definitely blames you, the reader, for them being that way. Number 8. Ambush Bug. Ambush Bug easily gains the title of most ridiculous DC character that is still around today. Having been created in 1982 as something of a throwaway character, it would be turned into not only a recurring part of DC's universe, but also made into a superhero himself after he became a cult favorite among comics fans. While he's sparsely used as a major character in comics, Ambush Bug did manage a fair few miniseries of his own, all of which managed to be even wilder and wackier than the character alone can be. Ambush Bug rips on just about everything to do with comics, which naturally involves a few good-natured cracks at his audience's expense, all of which are balanced out by Bug's assurance that he very much loves anyone who buys his strange series. Oh, bless him. Number 7. The Boys. Due to its adaptation into a wildly successful TV show, The Boys has once again fallen into the public eye, and hopefully for all the right reasons. Because while the series is fun for its violence and depravity, it's also successful for its clear mockery of the superhero genre itself. Their version of Batman is, well, sexually depraved, their version of Superman has a god complex 5 miles long, the X-Men are basically a frat, the list of parodied franchises and characters is literally endless. But crucially, The Boys takes this one step further by making these heroes be created by a corporation, Vought American. Vought American is clearly intended as a parallel to comic publishing bastions like DC and Marvel, with a clinical approach to getting media attention and public approval regardless of the cost having further unfortunate similarities to the ways that both companies have behaved in the past. So when Vought say that their target audience have terrible memories, don't care about quality, and are basically stupid idiots they can easily pander to, they're talking about us. And strangely, it's kinda fun. Number 6. The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Squirrel Girl has somehow become the Marmite of the comic world, with comics fans either loving her or despising her depending on how they receive the comedy of her series, The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Really, this all hinges around how willing folks are to accept the affectionate mockery that the comic provides, as despite having a weak-sounding name, Doreen Green is capable of taking out figures like Thanos, Galactus, and the entire collected Avengers without breaking a sweat. Crucially, this is always done as a clear joke, cheerfully mocking the importance we place on hugely powerful characters, and the rage that builds when we feel as though they were beaten unfairly. While this can easily turn divisive amongst those who consider these moments to dampen any kind of action or drama going on, it seems as though Squirrel Girl actively aims to irritate this demographic, and there's something very lovable about that. Number 5. All-Star Section 8. All-Star Section 8 is a special comic, in the same way your relationship with the parts of your family you don't like is a special relationship. It bears all the hallmarks of an outright parody, and yet it also features complete canon appearances from Batman, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, and countless other iconic DC staples. And not a single character that enters the weird and wild world of the comic escapes unscathed. Be it Batman getting heated with someone trying to ticket his Batmobile, Green Lantern being a diva, or just Etrigan speaking solely in raps. If you have a favorite DC character, chances are they're getting both barrels from the series, and you, by extension, are getting affectionately mocked for your heroic preferences. And with the end of the comic suggesting that the whole thing may have been in the team leader's head, it can also be said that the comic also mocks you for having ever liked the series in the first place. So nobody's left out of the ridicule extravaganza. Number 4. Deadpool vs. the Punisher, Number 5. Although moments mocking the reader take place in pretty much every Deadpool comic you can get your hands on, the most crucial moment of Merc mockery has to be the single time his quips were covered by non-comics-based media, when Deadpool mocked the Batman vs. Superman film in the final issue of Deadpool vs. the Punisher. After beating the Punisher to a pulp, Wade then has an overly emotional moment with his enemy over mistakenly thinking that both of their mothers' names are the same, dunking on this exact scene taking place in Zack Snyder's film, where the titular heroes bond over their mothers having the same name. Martha! Save Martha! The scene then goes on to have Deadpool explicitly mock the idea, saying that, quote, people whose mothers have the same name shouldn't fight, while looking suitably overdramatic, mocking every single fan who also enjoyed the, well, let's just call it divisive and pray that my hate mail doesn't stack up for the next few months. Number 3. Watchmen. If there's one true tragedy in comics, it's that Alan Moore created Watchmen to parody many aspects and tropes of the superhero genre, only for this to be completely ignored by a huge portion of the people who read the series. Each character is pretty much implicitly designed to mock some beloved comic figure or another, due to Moore initially planning the story around several already existing superheroes, making the series' satirical roots all the more obvious. This is especially true with the ever-prominent figure of Rorschach, who Moore himself has stated was supposed to appear as a bad example of what a gritty superhero like Batman or the Punisher would appear like in the real world, making it profoundly unnerving that he became so beloved by countless comic fans in the years since. Yikes. It's fair to think that Rorschach has some good traits. It's fair to think that he means well, but given the intention was to make him deserving of pity instead of idolization, it does seem like many miss the point that the series intended to mock the very type of hero they lionize the most. Number 2. Judge Dredd, The Cursed Earth. Judge Dredd, The Cursed Earth is an especially unusual comic in terms of mocking its readers, as it focuses around one interesting little point, that of fast food. Because a portion of its story revolves around the Burger Wars, in a satire of the cola wars between Pepsi and Coca-Cola, intended to mock the extreme lengths big corporations are willing to go to protect their own money-making interests. While this is all well and good, the tone gets weirdly abrasive towards the reader, as it routinely mocks the customers of these establishments. And hey, I get it, McDonald's wasn't the most ethical company back then, but there's no need to shoot on the folks out there gasping for a Big Mac at the end of the working week when you could be taking aim at the CEOs themselves. And number 1, Miracleman. Although many would regard Watchmen as the pinnacle of Alan Moore's ability to satire both the superhero genre and affectionately mock the audience who adore it, it's actually the ever-underrated Miracleman series which takes that reward. The actual Miracleman character has long been the unlucky subject of comics' internal politics, changing from the old Fawcett Comics' own Captain Marvel comics to Marvel Man after a legal dispute with DC, to Miracleman after the series was bought up by Eclipse Comics, who feared backlash from Marvel were the series to contain the company's name. In the midst of all of this, it's understandable that the comic slowly veered from being a conventional superhero experience to a series filled to the brim with violence, depravity, and existential crises galore, all tailor-made to remind us that the superheroes we covet would consider as completely inferior beings in real life. As such, Miracleman not only basically enslaves the human race, but also repeatedly shows that his immense powers have resulted in him losing basically all of his morals, asking his ordinary wife if she'd like him to give her power so she could come live with him, ignoring that firstly he left her, secondly he'd been openly sleeping with another superhero, and thirdly, that not having superpowers doesn't make you lesser. By its end, the series is definitely making digs at you for ever supporting Miracleman in the first place, and you can't totally blame it. And that was our list on 10 comics that mocked the reader. Please share your own examples down in the comments below, and please don't forget to like the video and hit the notification bell to make sure you never miss another video, as it really does help us out. You can find more stuff like this over at whatculture.com/comics, more of me on Twitter at UNBEATABLE, and more stories like this within the walls of your local comic book store. That's goodbye for now though, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.